each of the 6 candidates will be paired at some point with each of the others so that you'll get an opportunity to see each of them kind of go head to head on one of the questions. Our first category, and one that's near and dear to my heart, is women's rights.
Okay, the first pairing is T.J. Cox and Mateo Bedoya, and the topic being women's rights, specifically a woman's right to abortion, birth control, life without sexual violence and harassment, and equal pay are key points in the Democratic platform. Please, in detail, describe your position on these issues and how you would work in Congress to support the health, safety, and equality of women. 2 minutes.
No, thanks very much. Let me unequivocally state that I'm 100% pro-choice. And I can tell you is that the essence of women's rights is the fabric of my family. My mom out here was a real pioneer. She was one of the state of Nevada's first equal opportunity officer, fighting for women's rights, and fighting against discrimination. And I can tell you something, that is something that I live and work every day. I am proud of my company, which we've invested over $65 million here in the Central Valley in things like community health clinics, job training centers. And over 50% of those investments have gone to women-owned or women-run organizations. We practice equality. And in Congress, what do we have to do? We have to be a champion for women. The fact of the matter is, and you guys all know it, is that we have an abuser-in-chief in office. And we have enablers like Jeff Denham in this GOP Congress that allow that to happen. Somewhere along the line, they forgot that character counts. And so in Congress, I'm going to stand up for women. I'm going to stand up for women's rights, their right to choose, their right for non-discriminatory health care, and everything else that goes with being a woman and being a human being.
So you can say it many ways, whether you say it's pro-choice or you believe in a completely unrestricted right for women to access health care. And that's how I would label my stance. In order to basically fully support women's issues, it's continued to reauthorize the Violence Against Women's Act and support programs that help college-age women through Title IX programs. That's something that was brought about much later and wasn't thought about when public education first came around. It's something that, it was an afterthought until it came around and a need was addressed. In terms of domestic violence, we have to push for policies that make it safe for women to report if they're in a bad situation. I think the exact question was sexual violence. It applies the same way. You have to have a safe way to be able to tell someone, to grab somebody's ear and let them know that you need help. That means having support for new mothers. In other countries, they actually have a social worker that supports you for the first 2 years of a child's lifespan to help you get set up in life so that you don't have to deal with problems 10 times the cost later. Like I said, I support a completely unrestricted right for women to access health care. And we must reauthorize or include a new bill for an equal rights amendment. And that's going to make sure at least that it's codified in law what our guidelines would be. But in order to get actual change, we have to, and I'll go into it in my rebuttal, but we have to change our economic situation. Because a lot of the social issues that we get come from mess-ups there. Thank you.
It's not enough just to talk about it. You have to act on it. And I'm also on the board of one of the largest nonprofit housing developers here in California. And just a couple years ago, we were thinking about shutting down that firm, but we made a different decision. We made a decision to hire a 100% female executive board. Now we're one of the largest and one of the most successful nonprofit developers here in California. That's what you get with women.
Okay. Basically, we have to solve our economic situation. And what that comes from is having women, like he said, in positions of authority where you can make decisions. And really where that's not carrying over is into our economic arena. Right here we have 3 female candidates, 3 male candidates, and that's great. Congress doesn't look like that, and I can tell you that right now, it does not look like that. But we have to fix our economic situation, and that means getting more women on the boards of directors, getting working people on the boards of directors. And that must be codified into law so that we have precedent to get things done.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next up, Virginia Madueno and Dottie Nygaard. Virginia, you will go first. With abortion clinics being targeted across the country and a record number of restrictions being passed in state legislatures, what is your position on a woman's right to choose, as well as what you can do, if elected, to assist women in controlling their own lives and having access to health care of their choice?
So let me just say, I believe a woman should be able to make medical decisions, life decisions, and those very, very crucial decisions for herself with the advice of her physician. I do not believe government should interfere in a woman's right to be able to choose that direction. I don't believe that a government should be able to decide when you, as a woman, should be able to have a child or not. And that's why I am such a big proponent of Planned Parenthood, services that my mother used, services that I had to use when I first got married. We should be able to decide for ourselves when it's the best time for us to be able to be a good parent or to be a parent. And I'm sorry, what was the second part?
Okay. As well as what you can do, if elected, to assist women in controlling their own lives and having access to health care of their choice.
Well, there's no question. I do believe that every woman should be able to have access to affordable, quality health care. As somebody with a pre-existing condition, as somebody right now, and I'm going to tell you that that's why I'm running, that's why part of the reason of why I've made this decision, this very difficult decision to run for this position. I, like so many people who have a pre-existing condition, I am concerned about what the future holds for people like myself. Like David, who has cancer, who I just met at Oak Valley Medical Center. Or Sarah, who I've not known very long, but who also is facing the absolute devastating effects of not being able to afford health care. We should be able to, as Americans, have the privilege, the right, and to be able to
10
afford
seconds.
health care. That really throws us off, doesn't it? Bottom line, every woman should be able to afford it and access it. And I am so thankful to God that I had a physician who intervened for me.
Time.
Thank you.
Dottie, 2 minutes.
I am a strong supporter of a woman's right to choose because I do not feel the government should have any right to interfere with that really delicate situation and that really hard decision that a woman would need to make with her and her doctor. So I believe that we have an opportunity right now to make sure that we do not infringe on that Supreme Court decision that Roe v. Wade has made for us women, that we should be allowed to have and expand protections for women, and including the right to be able to exercise that in seeking a safe and legal abortion. I grew up in the 60s and 70s. I had a girlfriend in high school that had to go through a coat hanger abortion. We should never, ever go backwards. I want to make sure we protect the right for women to be able to have safe and affordable health care. Medicare for all would help protect women's right to seek health care. And I do believe in protecting and expanding Planned Parenthood. All of women deserve the right to universal access to birth control. I also believe that women and men should have paid family leave, and we should protect against pregnancy discrimination. So we need to make sure we expand our resources for women, which are also for domestic abuse situations and real justice against its defenders. Women.
We are going to take a little liberty here and ask a follow-up question. What can be done federally to support women coming forward and reporting sexual violence and harassment, specifically in the workplace, and to ensure equal pay for equal work? And you'll each have 1 minute.
So I'm going to tell you, when I was the mayor of Riverbank, I faced the situation where 2 women came forward to report sexual misconduct, abuse, and harassment against the highest leader at City Hall. These 2 women were terrified to come forward for fear of retaliation. I'm just a small-town mayor. What could I possibly do? I'm going to tell you, the situation that is happening right now has happened and continues to happen until we start to provide real safeguards to make sure that women are not mistreated, abused, harassed, because what we've seen historically, time and time again, and I'm hoping that we have changed the wave.
10 seconds.
When women come forward, they should not be treated as the aggressors. They are the victims. We need to deal better with those situations. Sorry.
All right, Dottie, 1 minute.
It is a difficult decision for women to come forward. So for so long, women have been in the shadows when you've had to speak up. And I really feel right now the Me Too movement has given women the opportunity to be able to share their stories and to say enough is enough. We need to end the discrimination against women and the sexual discrimination against women and stand strong. Because right now, women just want to be able to have an equal chair at the table, to be able to help and make decisions that impact them. And I think right now what is really important is that we have, especially in Congress, a commission to look into these types of allegations, that we have opportunities to be able to pursue justice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Sue Zwollen and Josh Harder. The Democratic Party platform states, quote, "We believe unequivocally, like the majority of Americans, that every woman should have access to quality reproductive health care services, including safe and legal abortion," unquote. Do you agree with this statement? If not, why? What actions related to reproductive rights and health care for women would you take into Congress?
Thank you very much. These are deeply personal decisions, which I have had experience with working in healthcare as I have in the emergency room, and also my time in the general hospitals. It is a deeply personal decision between a woman and her physician and her God, or whatever power she uses to make these difficult decisions. Sometimes it is very, very difficult. What sets me apart is I've actually had the experience of working with women and assisting them through this decision-making process and helping them at these times. I also locally serve on the Girls Advisory Council in connection with the probation department, which is about empowering young women to make choices. I also served on the Family Life Committee in our local school district and created policies and regulations regarding harassment, regarding the choices that even minor children have to make regarding reproductive health. And I'm grateful for that experience, and with that experience, I feel I am prepared to go to Washington, D.C., and to advocate for women and to be a voice for women. One of the most important things we can do, we know there are laws in place, they need to be enforced. And we need to be empowered, and we also need to have men speak up with us and support us in our efforts. I do support Planned Parenthood. They provide many screenings and preventative health care measures that do save women's lives. Thank you.
Josh, 2 minutes.
I think this is an easy one. I support a woman's right to choose. I think it's pretty clear I don't think the government has any role between a woman and her doctor. I think there's two things we can be doing to help advance that agenda. One is there's states across the country that are undermining a woman's right to choose. We need to make sure that those protections are codified in federal law, and that states like Mississippi are not allowed to actually make it harder for women to actually access the care that they need. And second, we have to protect Planned Parenthood, especially here in an area like the Central Valley. We don't have enough healthcare clinics. That's an organization that offers critical cancer screenings and neonatal health. It's very personal to me. My younger brother, his birth mother, took him to Planned Parenthood for some of those neonatal screenings. It's one of the most important institutions that we have here in the Central Valley. We have to make sure that it's actually protected and enriched, and so every woman does have that right, and it's real and accessible here.
Thank you. We'll ask a 1-minute follow-up. Sue, as it pertains to the platform, do you believe that the statement that women should have access to safe and legal abortion is something that you would protect as a congressional leader? Why or why not?
Yes, I would. And as was stated and mentioned previously, we cannot go back. I also was working as a nurse at a time when I was able to witness some horrible disasters from abortions that were performed in places that you would not want to be. It is imperative that we provide this service for women that have the ability, as every woman does, to make this, as I said, deeply personal decision. That is up to her, and it's important that we protect that for her.
Thank you. Josh, what can be done federally to support women coming forward and reporting sexual violence or harassment and ensuring equal pay for equal work?
We need to trust and support women who are coming forward. There's a great bill that Senator Gillibrand from New York put forward that puts us in the right type of direction to make sure that we're actually supporting women who are coming up with these accusations. And second, we need to make sure that we're holding our political leaders to a higher standard. We can't politicize this issue. We can't let Democrats protect Democrats and Republicans protect Republicans. We need to make sure that across the country, whether you're in the boardroom or the White House, you're held accountable for your actions. That has to be a tone that is set by our political leadership, and that has to be a set of laws and institutions that are changed, like ones to actually allow women to come forward with no repercussions in Congress and elsewhere, which is what this bill does.
Thank you very much.